Hey guys, Troll here, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about GTA San Andreas, the definitive edition. The thing that keeps coming up in conversation the most when I'm talking about this game is whether or not it stands up to scrutiny in 2021. Like, does it meet current standards? I think the answer to that question on a lot of levels is no, but on some levels, yes. I just think it kind of depends on who you ask more than anything. So I should probably start by explaining exactly what my history is with this game. San Andreas is definitely one of my most favorite, most revered, most played games of all time. I've probably spent anywhere from 300 to 400 hours in this game in its original form on up over the years. And there hasn't been much of anything that I've enjoyed more in terms of plot and humor and content. I've defended it to naysayers before, and I'm about to do it again to a point anyway. But seeing and starting to play through the remaster in the last few days has also made me accept certain truths about it that I might not have been willing to admit previously. Like, it's still a blast for me, don't get me wrong, and there's every chance that I'll wind up putting 100 or so hours into it again. I do plan to 100% it again. But I have to admit, there might not be a whole lot here to keep the generation younger than me interested over that same stretch of time. The satire of mid to late 90s / early 2000s America is frankly, pretty second to none among video games. And they take pretty much everything about American culture from that time, lowriders and hydraulics, the focus on cars in general, all the way up to debates about violence in video games and other media, and the absolute gun nuttiness that's epidemic in America that's just really starting to rear its head into the culture around that time. The list could go on, and it does. And they take hilarious shots at all of these things, and most of those shots land soundly. Like, there's hardly 15 minutes in this game where I'm not smiling or laughing out loud about something that one of the characters says or does, whether it's in plot or just an offhand comment while they're doing something else that's hilarious. The voice acting is probably among the best of the time, and that even still holds up fairly well in comparison to things that are coming out today. These are things that'll grab, a gamer like me in their early 40s. I lived through that time, and it's fun to see it all portrayed, on the screen for me again. It's a serious dose of nostalgia, and it's fun on levels that kind of transcend the gameplay. However, that's also the reason I think it might fall a little bit flat with the younger generation. This isn't going to be any kind of touchstone for them, and I think that, combined with some of the cringe things about the game and, a graphics and control boost that, while it exists, still falls well short of modern standards. Like I was saying, there's definitely some cringe in there, as there is with most media from, this particular period and, days gone by before that as well. CJ is GTA's first black protagonist, but let's face it, he's not exactly like a role model or a great representative when you're thinking about it through that particular lens. Lots and lots of stereotypes are reinforced. He's not a drug user, and you're not exactly pushing dope to the neighborhood in San Andreas, but make no mistake, despite his early protests to the contrary, Carl is a gangbanger no less than 15 minutes into the story. And there's a whole chain of pimping missions. That list goes on too. Now, it's probably not fair to ask any GTA character to not be a gangster. These characters are all gangsters. And, they're not the type of people you want to hold up as an example of inclusion in media for any group. And I think it's fair to say that Rockstar doesn't deserve any credit for, breaking ceilings or for writing heroes across color lines in a more inclusive manner. Like, that's just not it. CJ is not without its redemptive qualities as well, but those kind of wind up being a wash when you consider the other, quote-unquote problems, at least in this respect, in the game. So I think it's worth noting, but I've seen some folks out there praising CJ as, like, a great black main character, and I think that's a lot more fluff than substance. He's a relatively good guy gangster in a series of games that's based on being a gangster, but he's not going to win any awards for promoting racial inclusion in media in a constructive way either. And there are some other technical issues as well that might kind of, confound younger gamers' interest in it. The controls are not great by 2021 standards. They weren't even great by the standards when it was released. Although I think it's fair to say they were passable then, and that the minor changes and improvements that they have made make them passable now. But point blank, CJ is just not going to do what you want him to do all the time. That's just a fact. And the graphics are, well, I mean, they're better than they were, but they're still not great, and they're certainly not anything by modern standards. But I don't think that this remaster was intended to do that either. I think they kind of wanted to keep the look and feel of it to a point. So, I mean, if the question is, will the graphics pull a younger generation in, the answer is definitely no. In fact, I saw someone on Reddit, and if I can find the post, I'll link it in the video description here, but someone on Reddit said that they looked like, all the characters looked like they were greased up in sex lube. And as funny as that sounds, and it is as funny as it is to hear that, it's also not all that far off from reality. I mean, you can see it in the video here. I mean, San Andreas here, the definitive edition, makes some small improvements in this department overall, but again, it's not anything groundbreaking. And the rest of its game shows its age a little bit in terms of tech as well. The traffic AI is noticeably worse than in later GTA games, although it is certainly better than 3 and Vice City. And the same can be said of the pedestrians. A lot of times they'll just take off running for no particular reason at all, or no obvious reason anyway. Now, traffic and pedestrians doing stupid things is kind of part of GTA's charm sometimes, but it just doesn't work quite as well to that effect as it could, I don't think. I mean, all in all, to be completely honest, I'm having a great time with this, and I'm going to keep having a great time with it, but I don't know if I could recommend it to anyone who doesn't have that same nostalgia for the original that I do. But, I mean, from Xennials on up, if you like satire and violence and a deep enough plot, I think you can probably dip your toe into this and be fine. I can recommend it comfortably, but other than that, maybe, watch some more videos and check it out if you're not sure. At any rate, that's going to wrap it up for us. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to take this video in. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing or liking or commenting on this video, or all three. And until next time, have fun.